The moment that left an entire stadium in shock unfolded without warning. Jin, the eldest member of BTS, visibly faltered on stage, his movements slowing until he appeared unable to maintain his usual poise. In seconds, the vibrant energy of the concert dissolved into a tense and unnerving silence. What had happened to him? And why did Jungkook, usually composed under the most extreme pressures, collapse into unstoppable tears in front of tens of thousands of fans? The connection between the two events became the center of speculation, with witnesses recounting the chilling sequence as though it were etched permanently into their memory. IT began during what should have been one of the night's most anticipated moments. Jin, known for his unwavering stage presence, had just finished a verse when his body language shifted. His shoulders sagged slightly, and his breathing became more deliberate. Those close enough to see his face noted a strain around his eyes, a sign that something was far from right. Jungkook, standing only a few steps away, instantly noticed. The youngest member's reaction was not subtle. His expression transformed from focus to alarm, his gaze fixed on Jin as though willing him to stay upright. The audience, at first unsure of what they were witnessing, began to pick up on the change. Light sticks that moments earlier had waved in perfect rhythm now stilled, their soft glow casting a strangely solemn atmosphere over the crowd. The roar of thousands of voices faded into a low hum of uncertainty. The cameras, which often seek out moments of joy and interaction between the members, instead lingered on the tense proximity between Jin and Jungkook. As the next verse began, Jin attempted to continue, but his voice carried a faint strain beneath its familiar warmth. Jungkook moved closer, his body angled protectively, subtly shifting his own microphone away as though ready to catch Jin's words if he faltered completely. It was a small detail, but one that conveyed the gravity of the situation. When Jin took a moment to adjust his stance, resting more weight on one side, Jungkook's composure fractured. He bit his lower lip, his eyes glossing over, and for a moment, his singing was barely audible. That was the beginning of what would become a deeply emotional unraveling. Jungkook's tears were not the dramatic kind born from stage sentiment. They were raw, involuntary, and uncontainable. His chest rose and fell quickly, his jaw tightening as if trying to control something that was already beyond his control. Fans near the front could see the glistening tracks down his cheeks, illuminated briefly by the sharp stage lights. This was not just a performance gone awry, it was a personal crisis playing out in real time. The cause of Jin's sudden decline remained unspoken, yet his weakened state was undeniable. His movements became economical, as though each step and gesture was calculated to conserve energy. Jungkook stayed close, often glancing at him between lines, his concern growing more visible with each passing second. Other members, too, subtly shifted their positions to form a protective formation around him, a silent, instinctive response to shield him from the unrelenting gaze of the crowd and cameras. Observers from the side of the stage exchanged rapid glances. Staff members could be seen speaking into headsets, their eyes locked on the monitors that showed a magnified version of what the audience was witnessing. Backstage, shadows moved quickly, suggesting contingency plans were being discussed. Yet, on stage, the members carried on, navigating the delicate balance between preserving the show's momentum and safeguarding their eldest member. Jungkook, however, seemed unable to distance himself emotionally. Each time Jin's step slowed or his voice wavered, Jungkook's own performance was visibly affected. His voice cracked during a high note, his breathing uneven as if the weight of worry had settled deep in his chest. At one point, he turned his head slightly away from the audience, swiping a hand quickly under his eye before returning to face the crowd. But the tears did not stop. The fans felt it. They felt the sharp pivot from joy to fear, from celebration to concern. The emotional bond between the members, often spoken about but rarely tested in such a public, visible way, was laid bare. Jungkook's tears became a proxy for the collective distress in the stadium, a visible manifestation of the anxiety that rippled through the sea of purple light. Jin, ever the professional, managed to complete the set, though his expressions betrayed the effort it took. His smiles were faint and fleeting, his interactions with the audience softer than usual. As the final notes of the performance echoed, Jungkook remained close, walking beside him toward the stage exit. Fans caught the moment when Jungkook's hand lightly touched Jin's back, guiding him off stage, as though ensuring that no step was taken without support. The footage from that night has since been replayed endlessly by fans around the globe. Every frame has been dissected, every gesture analyzed. Theories about the cause of Jin's condition have ranged from exhaustion to illness, but the truth remains closely guarded. What cannot be denied, however, is the impact it had on Jungkook, his inability to stop crying serving as an unfiltered window into the gravity of the situation. In the days that followed, online platforms became archives of concern. Clips of Jungkook's tearful face were paired with slowed-down videos of Jin's labored movements. Fans shared messages of support, their words oscillating between worry for Jin's health and admiration for the unwavering care displayed by Jungkook. The image of the youngest member openly breaking down in defense of his Hyung became emblematic of the group's bond. This moment will likely be remembered as one of the most emotionally charged in BTS's history, not because of a record broken or an award won, but because it stripped away the layers of performance to reveal the raw humanity underneath. The question now lingers: what was the true cause of Jin's sudden weakness, and how will it shape the path forward for both him and the group? Until those answers come, the haunting memory of Jungkook's tears and Jin's fragile stance will remain etched in the minds of millions. The tension in the air that night was not something that faded once the music ended. Even as the lights dimmed and the stage descended into shadows, the atmosphere inside the venue remained heavy, almost suffocating. Fans lingered in their seats, their expressions mirroring the unease they had just witnessed. No one rushed for the exits. Conversations were hushed, fragmented into questions without answers. Did Jin collapse? Was he in pain? Why was Jungkook crying so much? The uncertainty became a shared weight that every person in that arena seemed to carry out with them into the night. Backstage, the scene was just as intense. Staff members moved quickly, their steps purposeful, their voices low but urgent. Jin was escorted to a private area, shielded from the cameras and from the eyes of the public. Jungkook followed closely, still visibly shaken. His eyes were red, his breathing uneven, as though the emotional storm he had endured on stage had not yet subsided. He kept glancing at Jin, as if reassuring himself that his Hyung was still there, still upright, still breathing. Those who managed to glimpse this moment described it as profoundly unsettling. Jungkook, often the embodiment of energy and light during BTS performances, was subdued, his face marked by genuine distress. Even in the chaos of the post-show environment, crew members dismantling equipment, managers giving rapid instructions, his focus remained fixed on Jin. It was not the behavior of an idol maintaining an image. It was the raw instinct of a younger brother who could not detach from what had just happened. Theories began to swirl almost immediately online. Within minutes of the concert ending, clips of Jin's slowed movements and Jungkook's tears were circulating across every major platform. Fans in different languages shared their interpretations. Some believed exhaustion had caught up with Jin after weeks of relentless schedules. Others feared a sudden illness. The fact that Jungkook's crying did not stop throughout the latter part of the performance only fueled the speculation. By the next morning, the incident had become one of the most discussed topics among ARMY worldwide. Hashtags and discussion threads filled with concern-dominated timelines. But beneath the speculation, one consistent theme emerged: an outpouring of empathy. Messages of support flooded in, addressed to both Jin and Jungkook, recognizing the emotional toll the moment had clearly taken on them. Fans shared stories of times they had seen the two interact in ways that revealed their deep mutual trust, framing this latest event as yet another proof of their enduring bond. Inside the industry, however, the conversation was different. Figures familiar with the demands of large-scale tours noted the immense physical and psychological pressures at play. Jin, having recently endured months of intense activity, might have been operating at the limits of his stamina. For Jungkook, Witnessing any sign of weakness from someone he has looked up to for years could have been an emotional breaking point. When the balance of strength within the group shifts unexpectedly, the effects ripple outward, to the members, to the crew, and to the audience. The emotional core of that night lies in one unavoidable truth. Jungkook could not stop crying because the person who has often been a source of strength for him suddenly appeared fragile. It was a reversal of roles that left him unmoored. His visible breakdown was not a moment of weakness, but rather a human reaction to a deep, personal fear. Fear for Jin's health, for his presence, for the continuation of something they have built together for over a decade. During the performance, these emotions played out in real time. Each time the choreography brought them into close proximity, Jungkook's body language shifted subtly. His shoulders squared toward Jin. His steps adjusted to match his pace. When Jin moved slower than usual, Jungkook slowed too, as if unwilling to leave him behind even for the sake of the show. In those moments, the thousands watching were no longer just an audience. They were witnesses to a private exchange of care and concern between two people on a public stage. Even days later, the visual memory of the moment lingered. Fan-edited videos pairing Jungkook's tear-streaked face with slowed footage of Jin struggling to maintain his usual energy spread rapidly. The sound of Jungkook's voice breaking on a note became a symbol of the night, haunting, raw, and unforgettable. In online discussions, ARMY members admitted they had replayed the footage not to sensationalize it, but to process it, to try to understand what they had seen. For those who were in the stadium, the memory is sharper still. They described the sound of the audience going quiet in waves, like a ripple moving across a vast body of water. The silence between songs felt longer than it was. When Jin spoke to the crowd, his voice was steady but softer, and Jungkook's gaze rarely left him. In retrospect, many said they had never seen such a visible display of emotional connection between the two during a performance. The incident has now entered the collective memory of BTS's history, standing alongside moments of triumph and joy, but marked by its unique vulnerability. Fans know that Jin's health, whatever the cause of his sudden weakness, is a matter the group will handle with privacy. Yet the image of Jungkook, unable to stem the flow of his tears, remains a stark reminder that behind the dazzling spectacle of global superstardom are individuals deeply intertwined in one another's lives and well-being. Until clarity comes, the unanswered questions will persist. Was this an isolated event or a sign of something ongoing? How will the group navigate the emotional fallout within their ranks? And perhaps most hauntingly, what was the exact moment that caused Jungkook's composure to finally shatter beyond repair that night? One thing is certain. The sight of Jin's sudden fragility and Jungkook's unstoppable tears has left a lasting impact not only on those who were there, but on millions who have since seen it unfold through their screens. It was a moment where music paused, lights dimmed, and the reality of human vulnerability took center stage.